Guys, I do not think we are paying close enough attention to what comes next on Spoon Island. We are all so focused on the immediate panic of the missing residents, but what if this very moment becomes the beginning of something much bigger? What if a desperate mother's search for her daughter transforms into a violent, blood-soaked turning point that forever alters the moral compass of the men who run this city? We are standing on the precipice of a massive explosion, and the fallout is going to redefine every relationship we thought we understood. Let us look at the board right now because the pieces are perfectly positioned for an absolute catastrophe. Carly Spencer is currently creeping through the cold, winding halls of Wyndemere, and she has just spotted Jocelyn Jax's ring. That piece of metal is the smoking gun, the undeniable proof that her daughter is being held captive inside that stone prison. But Carly is not alone in the shadows. Ross Cullum is lurking on the grounds, armed with valuable new intelligence and a ruthless agenda. Down in the darkest depths of the estate, Jocelyn and Liesel Obrecht are already suffering as hostages. On the outside, Valentine Cassadine is pulling strings, realizing his initial plans might not be enough, while Sonny Corinthos and Michael Corinthos remain completely unaware that the women they love are sitting on a ticking time bomb. The board is set, the players are blind to each other, and the trap is fully primed. This could lead to our first major future scenario, and it is a terrifyingly dark one. Picture this. Carly, fueled entirely by maternal instinct and adrenaline, pushes too far into the architectural labyrinth of Wyndemere. She does not wait for backup. She makes a critical, impulsive error, and Ross Cullum catches her completely off guard. A swift, brutal blow to the head, and suddenly, Carly wakes up behind iron bars, tossed violently into the very same hostage cell as Jocelyn and Liesel. Now Cullum holds the ultimate trifecta of leverage. But here is where the story could be heading toward an explosive climax. Valentine, who has been monitoring the perimeter and quietly contacting his mysterious associate, realizes Carly has gone completely dark. The silence tells him everything he needs to know. Her infiltration has failed, and the danger has just multiplied exponentially. If that happens, Valentine knows he cannot handle this tactical nightmare alone. He has to swallow his immense pride and do the one thing he vehemently rejected earlier. He goes directly to Sonny Corinthos. And he does not just go to Sonny. He brings Michael Corinthos into the fold. The bigger consequence here is the rapid formation of the most dangerous, volatile, and unstable alliance Port Charles has ever witnessed. Valentine, Sonny, and Michael are three men who have spent years at each other's throats, deeply divided by betrayal and bloodshed. Yet, they are suddenly forced to unite for a singular, desperate purpose. Looking ahead, this unholy trinity orchestrates a full-scale, tactical breach of Wyndemere. We are talking about a breathless, high-stakes raid through the catacombs and hidden passages of the Cassadine estate. They systematically hunt down the guards, locate the holding cell, and free Carly, Jocelyn, and Liesel. But a clean getaway is never in the cards. Cullum intercepts them, leading to a brutal, fatal confrontation. In this future, Cullum does not survive the night. He is killed during the violent rescue, leaving Sonny, Valentine, and Michael with fresh blood on their hands. They save their families, but they cross a line that binds them together in a deadly, unbreakable secret. But we have to consider a second, entirely different future, one that flips the entire narrative on its head. What if Cullum catching Carly is not an accident of her own recklessness, but a highly calculated move to draw the big fish into a massive net? There is a chance that Cullum is fully aware that capturing Carly Spencer will bring Sonny Corinthos and Valentine Cassadine straight to his doorstep. In this scenario, Wyndemere is not just a prison for the women, it is a meticulously designed slaughterhouse meant specifically for the men. What happens next may be a complete subversion of the classic rescue trope we are all expecting. Valentine, Sonny, and Michael storm the castle expecting a straightforward, aggressive extraction. Instead, they walk right into a labyrinth of sophisticated traps. Think about the intelligence Cullum has been gathering lately. What if he is secretly working in tandem with Jen Sidwell? We already know Sidwell is actively setting a massive revenge trap for Sonny, Laura Collins, and Lucas Jones. If Cullum and Sidwell are allied, this rescue mission becomes a horrific fight for absolute survival. In this version of the future, the formidable rescuers instantly become the hunted. The power dynamics completely shift. The women, Carly, Jocelyn, and Liesel, might actually have to be the ones who save the men. Imagine the absolute shock if Carly and Liesel managed to pick the lock or overpower a distracted guard, only to break out and find Sonny and Valentine pinned down by Cullum's heavily armed mercenaries. This path completely changes the trajectory of all the characters involved, stripping the legendary mob boss and the lethal former spy of their invincible armor, and proving once and for all that the women of Port Charles are the true, ultimate survivors of this ongoing war. Now, there is a third future, and it is the absolute wild card. This is the path very few people are talking about, but the psychological groundwork has been quietly laid over the past few months. What if the rescue mission succeeds, but the ultimate cost is Michael Corinthos' soul? We know Michael has been warning Willow Kane about going toe-to-toe with Tracy Quartermaine, showing his cautious, strategic, and corporate side. He has been trying to walk the straight and narrow path, but underneath that polished exterior, he is still Sonny's son, carrying the same dark legacy in his veins. If these three men break into Wyndemere, the tension will be utterly suffocating. Imagine they finally corner Ross Cullum in the grand foyer. Sonny might actually hesitate, calculating the immense legal fallout of a murder. Valentine might want to keep Cullum alive to interrogate him for crucial information on Jen Sidwell. But what if Michael, seeing his mother and sister bruised, traumatized, and shivering in a dungeon, simply snaps? What if Michael is the one who steps forward, pulls the trigger, and ends Ross Cullum's life in cold blood? This would be the ultimate shockwave. It completely shatters the established dynamic of the Corinthos family. Sonny has spent his entire life trying to keep Michael from becoming a ruthless killer, desperately trying to protect him from crossing that final unforgivable line. Valentine would stand there and witness the golden boy of the Quartermaine and Corinthos empires execute a man without blinking. The long-term fallout of Michael becoming a cold-blooded murderer to protect his family would fundamentally destroy his own psyche. It would tear his fragile marriage to Willow apart, especially while she is already drowning in Brooklyn Quartermaine's vicious hit-and-run framing scheme. It turns Michael into the very monster he has spent years judging his father for being. If you ask me, looking at all these moving parts and the deep psychological profiles of everyone involved, we have to see where the momentum is naturally pulling us. The path that feels most likely, the one that makes the most narrative sense for the future of the show, is the first scenario with a heavy, lingering dose of the third. I keep coming back to the idea that this storyline is fundamentally about the unholy trinity of Valentine, Sonny, and Michael. General Hospital thrives on shifting alliances and forcing enemies into uncomfortable bedfellows. Valentine realizing Carly is captured and having to practically grovel to Sonny for manpower is brilliant, compelling television. It forces Valentine to admit his own vulnerabilities. It forces Sonny to trust a man he utterly despises. And it violently drags Michael into the mud right alongside them. When Carly is inevitably knocked out and thrown into that dark cell with Jocelyn and Liesel, the clock immediately starts ticking. The sheer desperation will drive these three men to execute a flawless, incredibly violent infiltration of Wyndemere. I truly believe they will successfully extract the women. It will be a heart-pounding, adrenaline-fueled escape through the secret tunnels beneath the island. But Ross Cullum is not going to just stand by and let them walk away with his prized hostages. A violent, chaotic clash is absolutely inevitable, and Cullum dying on that island is the only logical conclusion to his aggressive storyline. He knows entirely too much, and he has pushed the wrong families entirely too far. His violent death during the rescue is the exact catalyst needed to bond Sonny, Michael, and Valentine in a permanent, terrifying pact of silence. They will have no choice but to cover up the gruesome details of the raid to protect themselves and the women from spending the rest of their lives in a federal penitentiary. But we cannot stop there. If that scenario happens, if Cullum is left bleeding out on the cold stone floors of Wyndemere and the hostages are spirited away into the night, what comes next? The bigger consequence may be the massive, suffocating police investigation that immediately follows the discovery of a body. You have Harrison Chase already on edge, fighting desperately for his career against ADA, Justine Turner. Chase needs a massive win to secure his job and prove his worth. You also have Dante Falconeri, Sonny's own flesh and blood, working the absolute hardest beat in the city. When Cullum's body is discovered, Dante and Chase are going to tear Spoon Island and the rest of Port Charles apart looking for answers. How long can Sonny, Valentine, and Michael possibly keep their intricate stories straight under the blinding lights of a police interrogation? What happens when Dante, with his sharp investigative instincts, starts noticing glaring inconsistencies in his father's alibi? Or worse, what if Carly, struggling intensely with the psychological trauma of her sudden captivity, accidentally lets a crucial detail slip to the wrong person at the Metro Court? The story could be heading toward a massive, catastrophic collision between the PCPD and this new, dark alliance. The rescue of Carly, Jocelyn, and Liesl is not the end of the nightmare. It is just the violent birth of a massive cover-up. This secret threatens to drag absolutely everyone in town, from a panicked Willow Kane to a newly returned Anna Devane, into a legal and moral black hole. The future of Port Charles is about to be painted in blood, deception, and unforgivable secrets, and absolutely no one is walking away from this island clean.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.